Today's guest is Donella Olson. She's the owner of Two Island Design Build. Donella, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Glad we got introduced. You've been doing architecture and design for, I guess you have a lot of experience in the area. How'd you get started?
Well, I have always wanted to draw houses. So when I was a kid, I used to like draw floor plans, and I was always building with like Legos and Lincoln Logs, and really anything that you could build something with, I was building with. As far as toys and when I was so I had sisters and we had Barbies and whatever, and when my sisters would be like, having Barbie and Ken go to prom, I was like building the Barbie house out of random stuff in our house. So, and like really getting into building the house, not, I didn't really care about like the lives of the Barbies really, or
Yeah,
like the drama that was happening. So that, yeah, I mean, I just have always wanted to design houses. It's just like always been something that I've done. And so when it came time to choose a career, it was really a no-brainer for me.
What did you have like a family or friend influence on that? Like, where did it come from? This need to want to build.
I have no idea. Um, really, like I nothing directly. Like my dad encouraged it. Like he kind of figured out that I was into it, so he encouraged it. And he had a drafting table because he was kind of a amateur inventor, and so he would kind of sketch things and whatever. And he, I don't know, he just said, anytime you want, sit at this drafting table and do your thing. And I started doing that, and then I took a drafting class in high school, and it just kept going. Yeah, so I really don't know where it came from. I just remember, I remember sitting at my grandma's house when I was a kid, and like noticing how the light came through the window and into another room, and like sort of, it's always been a thing for me.
Yeah, you just fascinated with all different aspects of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how did you get in? Who taught you? What did you learn?
Well, so I went to out of high school. I decided to go to a 2-year school. School had never really been my thing, and so uh, I decided to go to a 2-year school instead of going to a full-on architecture program. So I did architectural design and got my associates, and was out working, years before my friends were out of college, and it was great. Um, and from there, I really, one of my first jobs out of college was with a restoration and preservation firm, working on old buildings, old houses, really anything historic, and learned a ton and just absorbed it all, and
Mm.
worked on some just really super cool projects. Um,
I mean,
and I
when
just,
new build's one thing, but when you're restoring something, I mean, what are the steps? What are the considerations?
well, you always want to be um, considerate to the original architecture or the original moldings, really just everything having to do with how it was built to begin with. And then sort of, uh, even if you're not taking it apart, you're sort of deconstructing to figure out how to approach the project to make it uh, work for today. How to
Mm.
restore it, how to recreate it. And the same is true for remodeling old homes. It doesn't necessarily have to be a preservation or restoration project. My focus is in remodeling homes, and it's what I've been doing my essentially my entire career. And so it's a little of the same. Um, Not every house that I'm working on is, on the historic register, but the same principles apply. And a lot of the houses that I'm working on are 100 years old or so.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you could have gone into any area. I mean, why is that a passion for you?
The Minneapolis area has a housing stock, a really just a lot of 1920s houses. 19 really anywhere from well, older than the 1900, but usually somewhere around like a 1912 through, of course, now. But the majority of the housing stock in Minneapolis is like 1920 through 1950 or 60. And so that's just what I'm working on. But I'll remodel homes that were built 5 years ago if that's what comes to me, and that's what the person remodeling their house wants. But it's just, yeah, I've just been working on these houses in Minneapolis for a really long time.
Yeah. I mean, as a, designer, architect, I mean, there's just a lot of different things to consider. I mean, to what extent have you gone around to learn the various aspects of, home building?
I have been uh, designing and remodeling homes for 26 years now. Um, for myself and for other companies. And um, really it's just learning, picking things up along the way and learning what to look for. And with this vintage of home, they usually did things this way and they used these materials, and usually built it this in this method. And for this vintage it's a little different. And the way things are done now, it's a little, it's different than it was 100 years ago. Not all that much different, but it is different. And yeah, obviously codes are different now. And so yeah, it's really just picking things up along the way as far as like design elements and the way to approach a project. But then there's also, learning all the and experiencing all of the things having to do with planning projects and pricing them, and working with clients and like really figuring out what they want, and how to kind of extract that from them. Because a lot of times people will come to me and they have no idea what they want to do, or what can be done. They just know something needs to be done. I hate it. Can't work in this kitchen anymore. It's just, do something. And often what I hear from people is, I had no idea you could do that, or I never would have thought of that, or that kind of a thing. And that's really my specialty, is essentially like, come to me with who knows what. Like you can just say, I just want to do something. I don't know what it is, and I will be able to go into your home, have really great conversations with you, and just really extract what is best for your home, what
Oh,
is best for how you want to live in your home, and for your family, and really um, put it all together for you. So,
yeah.
and then of course project management and all of that too, during construction.
Okay. Whether it's your house or anything else in your life, it sounds like a useful skill to be able to help find people what they want or look for or clarify. Is there any sort of general skills or questions or things you notice yourself commonly doing to get to that point with your clients?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Um, hmm, Listening. A lot of listening, a lot of really asking the questions that I know will invoke the answers that they are trying to get out. Sometimes, so many times people don't really know how to explain what it is that they're trying to explain, right? And they they don't really know what it is that they want to do, or sometimes they don't even really know what it is that they don't like about the space. And so then I'll just, if we're talking about a kitchen, for example, um well, I'll just like, during the conversation in their home, I'll just, we'll go to the kitchen, and I'll kind of I can kind of help people show me what it is that they don't like, or what they would rather see when you're in the space. And They don't even really kind of know that I'm picking up on what they're saying, but then I'm able to take that information and present a design to them that's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, that solves it. How did you do that?" And I've just been doing it for so long. I've designed so many houses, so many remodeling projects. And that's the thing too, is it's different than a new home. Because and I've worked for new home builders, for small amounts of time, and it just is nothing against it, but it's just not my thing. It's not the way my brain works. And it's what I have found is that I operate so much um my brain functions more efficiently when I like when it's in a box, like compartmentalized. Like, so if I am working on a brand new house, it's sort of like that blank page syndrome of like if you're sitting down to start writing a book or start writing a LinkedIn post or whatever it is, and you have a blank page and you have no ideas, you just have concept of like you have a thought, but you don't really have anything to go on. um that's kind of a new home. Like if you're designing a new home
Yeah,
from totally from scratch, it's like, okay, where do I even start? Okay, I'll
yeah,
put the dining room here, or I'll put the front door here, and then go from there. And it sort of just evolves from there. And there's a process that you can go through and that's efficient and whatever, but it's just not how my brain sparks. My brain sparks by looking at an existing floor plan of a house and immediately being able to go to that doesn't work and I know exactly what to do to make this work. Just tweak this and move this and kind of expand that and open this wall and put a bathroom here and it works. And that's just how my brain works, but it's because it's within a confined space, and especially like on urban lots where we can't really go sideways. We can't add on to the sides. Sometimes we can, but um and just where lot coverage is limited, and sometimes additions that we want to put on are just not allowed, and working within the confines of sort of the rules, which is really funny that I'm even saying this because I'm not like a person who works within the confines of the rules, but I'm super process oriented, so that I don't know, there's kind of a little of both maybe happening there.
no, it's really good because I can relate. For me, like the blank sheet doesn't stress me out, but let's say my sister, a blank sheet stresses her out.
Yeah.
Right, and she does an excellent job when she can there's some parameters and, whether you're looking for improvements or tweaks or even redesigns, but at least if you had a starting point, they excel. Or sometimes it's like, you know, blank sheet, get it to 80%. The person that like the blank sheet, so it starts to lose energy around 80% of the
Mhm.
problem solved, and the last 20% requires a certain type of individual that sees that and say, "This doesn't work,
Yep.
this doesn't work, this doesn't work." So I just find that those type of individuals work very well together in certain scenarios.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. So perhaps I'm more of an editor.
No, you're right. I mean, there's a huge creative aspect. It sounds like from what you do, but it's just, if you have something to work with, I think you can visualize it better.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And it's like people don't even realize that the first time that I go to visit them in their home to just sort of talk about their project, have them show me around, and the really the first time that I even walk into their home, I'm already seeing what needs to be done. And that's not to say that I go into everyone's houses and saying like this is wrong and this needs to change, but um, when I know that someone is considering remodeling their home and I've already talked with them on the phone a little bit about like what their goals are and whatever, I can walk in and I can just already say like, "Oh yeah, okay. This is I can see I can see not only um where things aren't working, but I can also see where they could work better, and how to make that happen."
Give
And
me some
sometimes
examples. I'm curious, right? Like you walk into a house, like you're looking at the individuals, are you looking how they dress, you're looking at how things are organized, they're prioritized in the house. Is that running through your mind in real time?
um Less about, like, how they dress and who they are, more of, um when I'm thinking about, like, and kind of analyzing and assessing the persona of the people in the home and how they're working or how they live there, I'm more, um, paying attention to their personality types and,
What
kind of
sort of personality types that you sort of broadly categorize?
Yeah, so, like, there's engineering types, there's creative types, there's, that kind of thing, but there's also, you can kind of when you've been doing this a really long time, like I have, like, you just start to be able to pull out, certain personality traits that are gonna be, this person is gonna want, only 3 options of every finish because they're that kind of, they just give me concise, I'll pick it, like, I trust you, just put it in front of me and I will pick one. And then there are some kinds of people who are going to want to see 15 different things, or maybe you'll have 3 design meetings about one specific detail of the project or something like that. And all of those things are fine. It's just I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that, because every time I work with a client, or a couple or a household, I'm curating the experience for them, and really bringing together all the elements of their project. And it's really important for me to pay attention to those things as I'm talking with them and as I'm interacting with them. Um, I honestly don't think that anybody really realizes when we're talking how much I'm absorbing and pulling out of them. It's because it's like second nature to me at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, it's not just with clients that I work with too. It's like with just people that I interact with. I'm kind of always like extracting the meaning below the meaning and that kind of thing. And maybe I'm saying too much. People are gonna like not want to talk to me anymore.
No,
Um,
no, I mean, can it be learned? Like, can that skill be learned?
it has to be because I didn't have it before. It's been developed over the course of a long time. When I was younger, I didn't really have, like, I didn't read social cues as well, and I kind of was a little less approachable and that kind of thing. But I think, um, especially being in sales has really honed and developed that.
Yeah,
And just the ability to problem solve, for other people, and be able to, in order to effectively problem solve for other people, knowing that you have to extract that information. Otherwise, you're just making assumptions, or you're giving solutions that are just sort of incomplete. So I try to be as thorough as possible when I'm
yeah.
trying to gather all the information.
How much of that you think from the fact that you're so passionate about the art? Because even when you were talking about your childhood, you were looking at how the light came through the window and stuff like that. How much of it just you're just in an area that you're very passionate about and you want to do a good job?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that I think the skills that I have would be, um, useful in other careers, useful in other, industries, but I don't think I would want to. I just don't really have any interest in anything else. I it kind of baffles me sometimes because I know that, there are so many people in the world who just, like, that's not a thing, like, they just don't even know what that feels like. So I feel very lucky. I'm very grateful that I have discovered this very young and, was able to kinda go through my career with this. And, um, yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just always been there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I'm always curious how much of this is like developed when you're younger, and then, some people run with it, and sometimes it
Mhm.
gets put on the back burner. Like when I talk to entrepreneurs all the time, I usually ask them, what they were doing when they were like 10 or 8, and they're usually selling something, right?
Yeah. Which is funny because now I'm an entrepreneur, and having, started my company just over 3 years ago, um, it's I think that I've realized that I've always kind of been entrepreneurial in that as I've worked for other people, I've always been like a learn the things, do more, like take on more of the responsibility, like just sort of absorbing everything like a sponge. And that's sort of the entrepreneurial drive to just like always be doing and learning more. And but it's not until I actually owned my own business that I
Mm,
started to realize like, oh wow, this is the thing. Like
mm,
what I do every day and like the business that I run, this is my passion and I love that. And it's the only thing that I want to do. But the entrepreneurial part of it and how this is a vehicle to other bigger, more impactful things. It really just hit me like last year.
mm.
Um, and it's really exciting to me. Really
Which is
excited about it.
great, and I'm trying to think, because you said, sales is your thing, but how much there's different types of selling, right? There's people that, like, are very good at presenting and communicating the information, and then there's certain type of people that are just so knowledgeable, and that sells it for people because they can answer
Yeah.
everything. I'm If I were to guess, you're the knowledgeable kinda, like, explain everything, or do you feel like your presentation is the stronger part? Which do you think?
Mm. I think probably the knowledgeable part.
Yeah.
Um, and like I mentioned, I'm process oriented, like I have all the SOPs and like there's all the this is the process that I use and these are the documents that I present with and like that kind of thing. But and I'm just really thorough about my presentation.
Mm,
But I think that that actually comes from the expertise. I don't think
yeah.
it's the other way
And your
around.
entrepreneurial side that you just said that just hits you, it sounds like, the entrepreneurship is allowing you to be even more choosy with the type of people you work with and the projects you get involved with. Is that part of the piece?
I mean, I think it could be. It's the market's been a little rough for remodeling in the last, I would say, 6 months or so, and especially in the sort of mid market that I'm in. Um, there's a lot of people still doing larger, $1 million projects. There's a lot of people still doing sort of facelift kitchen projects or replacing a door or that kind of thing. But um, the full scale kitchen remodel that is not in the $1 million range, that's a tough market right now. And so to be choosy is difficult, but there's also an aspect of I've got a qualifying process that I go through with every client, and if there are red flags, I even in a tough market, I have to make the decision to not do it.
Ooh, I'm
Um,
interested about that qualifying process. Walk me through
yeah,
that. I mean, not every business has a qualifying process, so what does that look like?
cats, they should. Every business should have a qualifying process. Essentially, you identify what your ideal clients and your ideal projects are, and then you create a sort of questionnaire around that. And mine, I think, has somewhere around like six main questions of like, these are the points that I must hit in every conversation the very first time I talk to somebody. And they're around essentially what's the project. Like if it's a type of project that I really don't do, then I that's one flag, right? But if it's a perfect, main floor transformation with a full kitchen remodel and adding a bathroom and, a little of this and a little of that, that's my project. So if they're talking about that, it's like, okay, let's keep talking. And also location. You have to know how far you're going to go. And in sometimes in certain markets, you'll go a little further. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes the perfect, if it hits every single other mark and it's 5 miles or 10 miles outside of your usual zone, you'll go to it. Right. So there. there's parameters of there. It doesn't need to be like you have to hit every single one. Some companies are very strict on it. So type of project, location of project, um, timeline. So, if they expect that they're going to be under construction in a month or in a week, it's probably not going to work out, but we'll still keep having a conversation. Are you open to 4 months from now once we have it all planned and we have permits and I have all my subcontractors lined up? Is that okay with you? Because we could do that. Um, so timeline. I always ask about financing because the reason for that is if people plan on obtaining financing for their project, um, and they are on a shorter timeline as far as like wanting to be under construction, then I make sure that they're talking to the bank right away. Because A, it takes a little while for that process, and B, we can't even really get into the design process until we know what your budget is, and we won't know what your budget is until you know how much money you have. And so it seems some people might think that that's sort of a crass thing to ask, but I think it's necessary. Um, and I'm just very upfront and direct and open about communication. And so that's also one of the things is like if people aren't willing to talk about all of these things with me, then it's probably not going to work because I'm not going to be able to get that what I need from them, right? In order to really give them the the experience that they deserve. And so then another is budget itself. I think it's really important to have that conversation the first phone call, first contact, um, because that's pretty much the one that everything else can hit, you know, right on across the board, and that one people just aren't really aware of realistically how much it costs to remodel your home. And so I think it's really very, very important to have that conversation right up front. Um, and I'm super honest with people. And I kind of expect them to be very honest with me. So we have that conversation and then also just process, making sure that they are ready to, excited about going through the design build process and how I operate through it. Um, and so those are kind of the main points. But really, I mean, it seems like you have to have a questionnaire and you have to qualify your clients, but those words are really like business words. It's just a conversation and just making sure that you're hitting all of the important things in the conversation and hoping that everything works out and you set a meeting and move forward.
It's good. I like that. Like you said, you're not gonna pull out a questionnaire. You're gonna make sure in the course of the conversation, you're gonna touch on those points to cover those points. Because it's so easy in a prospect meeting to kind of like, oh, it's a little slower this month, and then forget a few steps, and then a little bit down the road, people are upset because things weren't explained or discussed and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you're right, and if you're really busy and you don't have time for that phone call, then maybe you might just skip over some things and say like, "Oh, you want to remodel your kitchen? Yeah, let's set a meeting." Now you're just wasting 2 hours of your time next week instead of taking a little extra time right now and figuring out. And it's not necessarily that if people don't hit all of those marks that they aren't a client. It just means maybe they need to do some homework. Maybe everything is right on, but maybe their budget didn't quite align and they haven't worked on financing yet. Well, how about this? I'll send you my contact. He's a mortgage broker. He's great. I want you to talk to him. He'll give you an understanding of what is available for you and what it's going to take to get there. And then we can revisit after that conversation to see truly what's your budget and is it going to work for the project that you want, or maybe we scale back, or maybe you get more money than you thought and you can spend more if you want to. um
That
those
makes
kinds of
sense. I
things.
mean, you're not saying, here are the questions. If you get a no, then okay, see you later. You're just saying, hey,
Right.
let me help you solve your problem. Obviously, you want this. Here's a contact that I have. And obviously, when you help a contact, right?
Yep,
that helps, you as well, but then they get another resource to ask more questions in a specific area. So that's great. Everyone can point out problems, but if you're part of the solution, you'll get trusted.
exactly. And I always, regardless of whether that first conversation leads to anything that we're working together. Sometimes at the end of that conversation, it's a very mutual, like, yeah, just it doesn't seem like it's going to work, does it? But I still leave it open and say, I want to be a resource forever to you. Like, if there's ever a point where you have a question about how this process should work, whatever it is, if you hire somebody else and you're feeling like there's red flags, I'm happy to sort of talk through that with you. It might seem, I don't know, maybe that's not what people want to hear, but like I want people to have a good experience with it, even if it's not with me. I hope everybody remodels their home with me, but I know I'm realistic about that. That's probably not going to happen. And there's plenty of contractors out there. I'm friends with a bunch of them in the area, and they're sending me work and I'm sending them work, and it's just, because sometimes either like maybe everything on that list they hit, but the timeline is just not going to work because I already have projects scheduled exactly when they want to be under construction, and they need to be done with construction at X because they're going to have a baby or they have a graduation or whatever it is. And I can't serve them in that way, but I know 3 other contractors that they'd be a perfect client for. And oh, by the way, this one, I just talked to them last week and they said that they were looking for something for that time period. So why don't you call them? Because I know that they're great. I know them firsthand. And if they can't help you, call me back and we'll figure it out and see if there's some way I can squeeze it in, or that kind of thing. Or if they just need a handy person, I'll give them a reference for that.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's great. I mean, is that on the architectural side, is that a common practice, for designers to sort of collaborate that way?
Um, well, I mean, my company is design build, so I do all of the design and I do all of the building of everything that I design. And so yeah, I mean, if it turns out that they really need is a designer, and they're going to build their project themselves. Occasionally, if I have some space, I'll do a design project for somebody who's going to build it themselves. Not often. But if it happens to be during a time where I can't help them with that, then I have other designers that I can refer them to. And likewise, if they're coming to me and they already have a design and they're really just looking to get 3 bids or something like that from contractors who aren't design build, well, obviously that's not what I'm going to do either. It's just not how my process works. So then I can give them referrals for contractors who do that. And I mean, I don't know if it's entirely common among everyone, but it certainly is common for me, and it's common for the folks that I like to hang out with in the industry. So it's really a lot more of just a community that we're sharing resources and things like that. I'm in 2 different roundtables of contractor owners. Um, and the folks in the roundtables we're all direct competition and we're all great friends. you know so I've never really thought that we need to be competitive with each other. I'm competitive enough with myself that I don't need to compete with other people.
Oh, there's the quote. I love that. No, thank you for sharing. Is there anything that I didn't ask you but you wanted to share?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, you've had really great questions. um I don't know. I don't think so. Uh, I would say if you are thinking about remodeling your house, give me a call. No, if you're thinking about remodeling your house, talk with a design build contractor earlier rather than later. Don't spin your wheels and kind of go into the weeds for too long before you speak with somebody, because they're going to be able to give you really, realistic information about what to expect for your project. There are people that I talk with, and we have this initial conversation that I've been telling you about, and then we stay in touch for 3 years, and then they do their project, 5 years, and then they do their project. And that's the kind of relationship that I want to build with people. And so, yeah, I guess I would urge, if people are listening and they're wanting to remodel their homes, reach out to your local contractor before you get too far into it, so you have great expectations about what to plan toward.